is, what is artificial intelligence? And I know everyone has a point of view on what is artificial intelligence. Well, the reason why we came up with this episode was because when you go to Twitter and type artificial intelligence, you see robots. But I don't think that's all about. So what is artificial intelligence is the question. So I'm asking everyone on Twitter who know or who think, have a point of view, to come on and share their point of view. So to do that, all you need to do is send me a direct message or call me, message me if you know me. If you don't, just send me a direct message wherever, and I'll bring you on here. To do that, if you're watching this on Twitter, then follow me on Twitter, which is me, Shelly. If you're watching this on YouTube, please press the subscribe button and the bell icon. If you're watching this on LinkedIn, follow me, because there's lots of content flowing around all these channels. And if you're watching this on Facebook, then please like and share it with other groups which are focused on artificial intelligence, so that more and more people can learn from the guests out here. Okay, so today's guest is Annelies, and she's sent me a message. I am so bad at naming her second name, and we will have to ask her when she comes online, and how do we pronounce it. So give me a minute and let me get Annelies out here. Ba-ba-ba-ba. Hi Annelies, welcome to the Shelly Show. How are you doing?
I am doing well. How are you?
Very good. So Annelies is right from Sydney, so she lives, I think, next door, not far away. I'm in Northwest, and I'm sure she should be somewhere nearby. So Annelies, introduce yourself.
Thanks, Shaylee. My name is Annelies, but everybody knows me as Annie. So if you've ever come across me and bumped into me anywhere around the analytics community in Sydney or anywhere else around Australia, you probably know I probably introduced myself as Annie. I have been with SAS for quite a number of years, probably about 15 years, but I've been working in the analytics space for about 20. And I always use that as an introduction because it kind of gives away how old I possibly am. So I'm a lot older than I look, probably, but and I think one of the things that I'm really passionate about is really educating people around what analytics is. And I don't just mean obviously what I'm going to talk about today, which is artificial intelligence, but I just mean even like basic concepts, fundamentals, and as part of something that I did a few years ago was I co-wrote a course called Analytics Fundamentals for the IAPA, because, that was very much themed along that. So, what I do now is I'm a partner enablement manager at SAS. Effectively means that, I spent my entire career working through solution management, etc. And I finally got to the point where I was like, I just like to enable people. So that is what I do a lot of. And I work with a lot of our partners out there.
So explain to us your second name, because that is very interesting. And how do you pronounce it so that people can understand what it is?
It's Tjetjep. It's pronounced Tjetjep. So it's really funny. When I was younger, I used to tell people it's like ketchup, but with a ch sound. So Tjetjep. It's Indonesian. So that's where my family's from. And just like most Indonesian surnames, it was a made-up surname back in, I think, the 60s. It was, effectively it was a bit of a law passed that everybody had to change their surname. So that's why it's a bit strange.
Okay, now to the core, the main question. What is artificial intelligence in your point of view?
Yeah, thanks for asking that, because honestly, as you said, a lot of people have lots of different definitions of it. And the first thought that you always have is this robot, right, in your head. But I'm going to break it all the way back to the start of creation, so to speak. So there's this mythology. It's in Greek mythology, the myth of Prometheus, who is this titan who effectively molded humans out of clay, and then he gave them fire, and then with the fire we cause all sorts of problems, with that. And I think this is one of the things, when I think about AI, I think we have to think about, and obviously there's the ethics side, but artificial intelligence really is, it's the combination of the robotics with the cognitive thinking, with the ability to train a machine to think and make decisions automatically. And look, as humans, we want more automation, right? Like, whatever we're doing, we want the system to be automated. And we totally get that, especially if you work in the IT space, right? The faster, the better. And that's the crux of what artificial intelligence is. But I think, back to the story of Prometheus, I think it's very much around also around thinking about the what are you going to be creating? So how far do you want to take it? Because I'm a big fan of movies, and when Shaylee asked me to come on and do this, I was like, that most of my thinking around this is based off the movies I've watched in the last like 10-20 years, or more than that. I mean, you've got some like obviously like Skynet, right? You think of the Terminator movies, and you've got all of the negativity that comes with something like Skynet, where it becomes effectively a sentient being that then tries to kill us. Same thing as the Matrix. Same thing as HAL, from Space Odyssey. So basically all these examples of how these creations are human creations. And even more recently, we're thinking about like even a few years ago, where some of those big tech companies created their own bots, and then they started to learn online, and it did not go very well. So we all remember those stories because they were pretty recent. But then you've also got like, I think the obligation as humans, beyond just creating a monster, it's also about what happens when you do create something that is so something like in that movie AI, or even like Data from Star Trek. If anybody's watched Star Trek Next Generation, Data was my favorite character. Probably not surprising because I'm an analytics person. But his whole thing was evolving to become he self-trained himself to try to develop emotions, right? And same thing with like there was this really tragic movie I watched. It had Robin Williams in it years ago called Bicentennial Man, and it was the same sort of thing where he was basically more human than a normal human, but he had no rights. And so I think this is also, when we think about artificial intelligence, and when you talk about what is artificial intelligence, there's a definition of it, which is obviously the combination of the cognitive and the learning with the robotics, the talking, and the thinking together. But then there's also how far as humans do we want to take that? Do we want to go beyond just helping us automate manufacturing or our retail purchases for Christmas, or making quick decisions that we just don't want to spend the time doing? Or do we want to take it all the way until we start creating something that could actually learn for itself? And then where are we? And are there any? There's obviously no regulations around that because we don't have anything like that yet. But I think that's also when you start thinking about that type of future, does it mean that they shouldn't be regulated, or that there shouldn't be some sort of, I suppose, framework or thinking around that now before we start creating them? That makes sense. So
my personal point of view is mimicking human intelligence is artificial intelligence. So you need to mimic the way human thinks. If you could make the human think the same way, it could be better. The only difference is that you and me only take input in terms of voice, visuals, and possibly feeling, whereas machines can ingest data from anywhere, and they could not only ingest sound and videos, but also get data in, which is far more valuable than you and me doing that. So that's where it will outsmart humans.
It could, exactly.
And that's where mimicking human intelligence is artificial intelligence for me. Okay, fine. Any use case that comes to mind?
Well, this one's yeah, there are a few, but like the one that I've during my enablement sessions, I run some sessions around text analytics, for example, and the example I always give there is actually not so far away, because some people are already doing this, but it's like I'm one of those people that is. That I actually got called a Karen once. Actually, I'm one of those people that if something doesn't go quite right, or I'm not shy to pick up the phone and call call customer service, for example. And I know sometimes they work off a script, and that's just the way it is. They have to, because they've got certain things that they have to say to you. But one of the case studies is really like if they are talking to you, or if you call them or they've called you, whatever it is, and they can in real time detect, a machine can start to detect and start to push results out to their computer about like how you are feeling in that moment. Of course, as a human, as a customer service person on the other line, they could probably react, like the more experienced ones can react, right, really quickly. But this is also another opportunity, if you can automate a system like that, where it can actually take a totally objective view of someone's tone, not mixed up with the emotions of the other person on the line, and actually interpret that. I think that's really where that's that next level customer service, I think, because I think that's really where we're probably going to some extent. Like even like nowadays when I'm, say, transacting online and then I don't finish the transaction, it's a very simple rule in the background that just says that they didn't finish the transaction. There's something in their basket, so like send them an email going like, oh, hey, you've got something left in your basket. But if you could take that to that next level to say that, like, what did they leave in the basket? When did they stop the transaction? Why maybe did they stop the transaction? Is there maybe something wrong? Like something happened to me yesterday where I was meant to get free shipping, but for some reason, when I went to the checkout, it didn't give me free shipping. And I kind of was it took me about 5-10 minutes to try to figure out how to contact them. And in that time, they'd fixed the system. I don't know how. I think it was probably just a bit of a glitch. But, if things like that could be solved sort of in real time, and that could only be solved by a machine, obviously, right? Like that's in the background really kind of making, and there's AI in that because they have to think about it. The system has to learn that there is something wrong here. It may not be something that's already been fed into them as a rule beforehand. So, I mean, I guess I'm like, I've got presents and gifts in front of mine because it's Christmas. But that's kind of where I'm thinking, like,
No, you're right. In
yeah.
fact, your use case has it reminded me of two examples just happened within last 2 days. It was, and I'll give you these two. One was the Black Friday sale that was going on, and I was going to watch the India-Australia match at Moor Park, SCG. And while I was in the car, I was just trying to play with the phone and say, well, what I can buy. So I wanted to buy this light, and I went on to Kogan and put that into my checkout and put it there. And then I said, okay, fine, let me check what's happening on Amazon. And I went on Amazon and I found something at $30 cheaper rate. And I bought it there. And Amazon and Kogan still remembers that I've got that light in there. And so they're thinking that I'm going to buy it's there in my checkout, but I've already bought it Amazon. That's one thing. And the second thing that happened just now, my wife came to me and said, well, we want to buy a red t-shirt for our daughter for her show. I think it's on Saturday. And so I went in, and she had actually given me a website to say, well, it's in the checkout. Can you please check out for me? I said, okay. And I said, okay, fine. Before I check out, can I just check if there is something else? And I went Google and said, red singlet. And I found one at Best and Less. And I told her, she said, oh, I can go and pick it up.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think
checkout never went anywhere. And so there are these kind of use cases which need to be taken care of, and I don't know how.
Yeah, well, what's really interesting is I recently found a feature on my phone. I have one of these super high-tech phones, and I'm just discovering things every day. And there is this feature on my camera where you could go to advanced AI feature. Well, number one, my camera's always had AI, so which means that when I point it at a cat, it knows it's a cat. Things like that, which I think is really a bit freaky. But this next level was you can go to this advanced feature, and it can actually scan any object, and it will tell you anything that looks like it on the internet.
Yeah.
Which I'm just like, wow, that's like crazy because it's funny because about this time last year, a bit earlier last year, we were having this kind of like team brainstorming AI kind of thing, and my team came up with this idea of couldn't we do something like that where you can scan an object as you're walking past if you don't have time to buy it, and then in real time it can translate that information, figure out everywhere in the vicinity of where you live where you can buy that same thing or something really similar. So I mean, this is where AI can be really, really helpful, right? Because it's about using it mimics humans, but it's about the automation part of mimicking humans. It's not necessary. There is a thinking part, and obviously it has to learn, but it doesn't broach into that world of ethics necessarily, well, into that like sort of world of like, you know, machines and they become sentient sort of situation, I think. And, you know, like also policing. I mean, another case study is obviously in the policing sector. If you can, similar sort of thing, if you can start to really early detect or you know, use bots, and you know, you get this in a lot of movies around, right, where they future policing is all robots, and they kind of make really like sort of black and white query type decisions based off their, you know, what they've been trained on. But of course, then it goes to a higher level. It goes to a human to then make the final decisioning. And you know, we all know what happened with the Minority Report and how machines are not all infallible, right? So, but yeah, I mean, I think this is it's AI is very exciting, you know, you know, where it can go, but it's all about, I think, using it as a tool to help us as humans rather than trying to replace humans, if that makes sense.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Annie. Thank you for your time. It was a pleasure having you, and I'll speak to you soon.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye. So, guys, that was Annie Tjetjep, as she said, from Sydney, and she had a point of view on what is artificial intelligence. If you've got a point of view, if you think you know what is artificial intelligence, or if you've got a different way of explaining it, please send me a direct message, and I will bring you on here, and we can have a conversation. If you're watching this on Twitter, please follow me. If you are not watching on Twitter and if you're watching on YouTube, then please press the subscribe button and the bell icon. Anyways, even if you're not watching on YouTube, please do come on YouTube and use my handle and press the subscribe button and the bell icon. If you're watching this on LinkedIn, then please follow me there. And if you're watching on Facebook, please share this across with everyone and anyone who would be interested in this. Thank you for watching. It was a pleasure having you here. Please send me a direct message if you want to be here, and I'll bring you on. Thank you.